On this episode, we're going to address how to get a dog to stop pulling you on a leash and actually get it to walk beside you on a loose leash while on the walk. We're also going to be addressing how to properly socialize a puppy around humans, where you teach it the rules without it getting overly excited and potentially crossing that border where you start to get it to fear other people, and also how to keep your dog on point with training and its behavior after leaving a training program, such as the training programs that we offer here. Okay, so the first question is from My Voice Matters. As far as best method, that's a matter of opinion. I'll go ahead and say that if you have a dog that is walking nicely beside you already, it kind of almost doesn't matter what you're walking the dog on. But if you're struggling, which seems to be your case, I found that controlling the dog's head is the best way to teach them how to follow you, right? Because we have the senses here, specifically nose, eyes, and ears, which you want to be connected with you. A lot of times when dogs are pulling, they're very disconnected from us as walkers or owners, whatever you want to call it, and that's what we're looking to change. So a lot of it has to do with impulse control, but what I found to be most effective are prong collars, slip leads, halties, not gentle leaders. There is a difference between the halty and the gentle leader. And anything that offers pressure release. I'm actually a huge fan of prong collars in a way where I use it not as a last resort tool. And I think that's one of the big reasons why it has such a bad reputation, is that it becomes this, when this isn't working, this is what we jump to. And believe it or not, you can actually be much more sensitive on a tool like that than you would be with something else, especially when you have a dog that's gonna pull you and choke itself, whether you're doing anything or not. Right? So you'll have, veterinarians who realize that your dog is choking, and even some trainers that will suggest harnesses to prevent your dog from choking, but it doesn't necessarily teach your dog not to pull. And originally the harness was designed to allow dogs to pull. Since then, we've marketed and created different type of harnesses which are front clip and do sort of offer a pressure release martingale system. The problem with that is you tend to get what I call harness dogs, which get really crabby. If they really want to go to something, they'll pull, and leash pressure can be over here, and they can totally ignore that. What we're trying to teach is by guiding the head, the body will follow. And when a dog makes a choice to feel pressure and walk toward it, pressure will come off. So if we're looking at things from an operant conditioning point of view, it's a form of negative reinforcement. One quick example of negative reinforcement today that a lot of you guys will see is if you're driving a car and you're being a rebel and you're driving without your seatbelt on, most modern cars are actually going to make that annoying dinging sound until you make the right choice to click that seatbelt in. So negative is not bad, which is very important to know, and positive does not mean good. And that's a marketing thing that a lot of people will talk about there, but that's a whole other topic in itself. Negative simply means that you're taking something away, and then reinforcement is anything that you do to encourage a behavior to continue in the future, right? Or just encourage a behavior in general. So if I'm applying leash pressure and you start to walk toward that, I would acknowledge that by taking that sensation away. I've found that when doing any type of negative reinforcement on a prong collar, if you have a dog that pulls, what happens is that tool itself has the ability to offer very, very soft, sensitive touch, as well as firm touch if needed. But the firm touch doesn't really get used in 9 out of 10 situations until you teach them the language in general. So what we're doing is offering a lot of just pressure release exercises. And if I'm the dog's head, and I'm looking at a dog over here or at a squirrel, if the owner uses the leash and I start walking this way, but I'm still facing this way, pressure wouldn't release. We actually want to turn the head, and right there, pressure will release. So I actually have a lot of videos on our Facebook page showing this. I'm actually going to shoot a YouTube video just for this because we do get these questions a lot. I personally feel that pressure release exercises with a prong collar properly fitted with appropriate timing with the right amount of pressure it is the best way that we found. And we do work with a lot of really, really bad dogs who have been through trainers before and have failed, and have a lot of trainers that say this is about as good as it's gonna get. And then they come here and we have them walking really, really solid. Once you teach the foundation work with any type of pressure on a leash, you can also transfer that to remote collar work. And again, that's a tool that's a very controversial, misunderstood tool, because a lot of people use it as a last resort tool to shock dogs or teach dogs what not to do. We actually use both of these tools in the early stages to teach dogs what to do, to give them a really, really solid understanding. That way, if we use it to disagree, we can also show them what to do instead. So prong collar, definitely the way to go. If you have a smaller dog, a slip lead, or a properly fitted martingale, sometimes the martingales, which essentially is a prong collar without the prongs, sometimes the martingales are not properly fitted, and that could be a little bit tough. Same goes with the prong collars and the brand. We use Herm Springer, which is a German brand. We either use the 2.25 or the 3.0, regardless of size, of how big a dog gets. 3.0 is the highest that we go, and 2.25 is usually around the 50-pound mark and lower. When you get really, really small, they have an off-brand for Herm Springer, which is just a knockoff generic version of the prong collar, which is a micro prong. But lately, when we usually hit sizes that small, we just use slip leads and stuff like that. Your timing does have to be a little bit better for you to kind of get into that. Really what we're doing is we're getting a dog to develop some type of impulse control. So when we're talking about impulse control, there are ways outside of the walk to get your dog connected. A lot of this has to do with state of mind compliance, state of mind conditioning. I do have a video of that on YouTube, which you should check out, State of Mind Conditioning Part 1 and Part 2. That has to do with how we start the walk. A lot of times we start the walk very excited, and the dog gets to do whatever it wants. And more importantly, what I've found is that a lot of times the walk tends to be strictly a potty walk or an excited type of moment where a dog is disconnected. We want that dog to mind us. So the walk actually starts from the second you pick up that leash. The walk actually continues while you're in that hallway, or when you walk out of your door, before you walk out of your door. When that door opens, that threshold, what's happening there? Is your dog immediately forgetting about you and barging through, or is your dog kind of looking and waiting politely and saying, hey, what are we doing? Ultimately, what you want is a walk to be enjoyable for both you and the dog. And I've found that, again, controlling nose, eyes, ears, teaching impulse control indoor areas, and getting a dog to regularly pay attention to you indoors and in everyday situations is a beautiful start to having a dog expect to do the same thing outside. All right, so hopefully that helps. The videos that we have on our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages do show that a little bit more in detail, and that answers that. Next question we're going to go ahead and get into is from Will Space NYC. Brother, I love you for asking this question. To answer Will Space's question, one of the main important things that we do when a dog leaves our training center for our board and train program is we set them up with a protocol. We have a 90-day protocol. We have videos that we send them, not only of us, but of other colleagues and trainers who are in the same field doing the same type of behavior work. We also send them PDF files of the tools we're using, how to use them. And one thing that's really important is that, especially for you guys are a gym, so you know all about fitness. Fitness isn't a temporary thing. Dieting is not a temporary thing. It should be viewed more as a lifestyle. The more it's a lifestyle and it's a way of life, the easier it is for you to be successful in giving communication to your dog that's actually clear, and also for your dog to be successful in what's expected. A lot of times dogs know how to behave with us, but then go back to the owner and go, oh, I know how to behave here, but I do whatever I want here. So you guys do have a little bit more of a challenge initially to reintroduce what type of relevance you want and what the relationship is for you. That's number one. But if you stick to the protocol that we have and you're really strict with it, it usually opens up doors and allows for you to loosen up the reins a little bit, because you have dogs that are already making proper choices. So if you're using the tools the right way, if you're sticking to it, if you're having all of your friends, acknowledge the dog appropriately based on what you're telling them to do, you really, really should be in good shape. Another thing that we do is we offer follow-up sessions. We offer pack socialization here, and a lot of things where we're still here. Ultimately, we want to be like your mechanic that you love and trust. But at the same time, I say mechanic because it's someone that you never really want to see. If you're seeing us, that means that there's issues with your car, right? So you love and trust us. We're always here for you, but we do our best job to set you up so that you don't have to need us all the time, right? Having said that, we are always here for you. To kind of play off into the next question, what I am going to say is you're in a little bit of a tough situation because you're utilizing daycare, which I'm not going to label all daycares and stereotype all daycares, but the average daycare is a free-for-all mosh pit. I believe I said that on the last episode. While they have the best intentions, they really don't usually offer structure, and their version of structure and things overall, as you even say in your question, can be extremely contradicting, right? So a lot of that chaos is tough. What I will say is if you have a job, let's say you have the average 9-to-5 job, exercising your dog prior, working him out with you, exercising your dog after is a really good place. I would actually look into hiring a dog walker, getting them on board so that they can be on board with what you're doing, you're teaching them there, and that dog gets that extra exercises and then learns how to relax. Sometimes having all this freedom and this I get to do what I want in the daycare actually unintentionally reinforces the bad habits that you work so hard to get rid of, especially when there's no one there to advocate and dogs are kind of creating their own rules. Some dogs are a little more insecure when the other dogs are a little pushy, so that can be tough, and it seems like that's what you're going through now. Again, daycares have the best intentions, but a lot of times they just don't understand things from a training point of view. Although I will say the 2-day dog training seminar that I just taught over in Wisconsin, A Touch of Class Pet Resort, those guys have it going on. So from a daycare perspective, they blew me away. I was so honored to actually work there and offer them what we were doing, give them insights, and I'm blown away with what they're doing, and I'm very, very honored and humbled that they would fly me out there to work with them and see the things that we're doing from a training point of view so that they can learn how to implement that over there. So thanks again. Shout out to you guys. You guys are fantastic. Going into that, yeah, get a walker on board. It could be a family member, it could be a kid, anybody that's open-minded. I don't care if they have no experience or if they have 50 years experience. You know what's best at this point because you just finished up a training program and it looks like they might be a little bit farther away from you. Your options, if you can't find a daycare or a local dog park that is more quiet, I would say definitely hire that dog walker, okay? And see if you can do some type of pack socialization classes outside. Certainly exercise the dog while you're around, and I think you'll be in good shape. All right, buddy? Let's see what else we have here. So it looks like you're a little bit conflicted with his eager puppiness, which is over the top and might be annoying some people and also frustrating you because you want him to learn how to relax around people and greet nicely. It looks like he's jumping up on kids. First thing I'm going to do is get you to understand that you do have a puppy, so understand that. At the same time, you do want to treat it like an adult. So I will say, in your house, away from those problem areas, you really need to make an effort with your family to have him behave a certain way when they enter the house, when your husband enters the house, when your daughter enters the house, when your kids, your friends, really set yourself up for success and give clarity and understanding to the tools that you're using and what you expect when you use them a certain way. That way, if you do have to correct, it's not putting a dog into a fearful state because the dog already understands that level of communication and goes, oh, don't do this instead. So I would say practice more on teaching what to do before you go into anything of teaching a dog what not to do, and you're gonna have more success. If you're crossing that border between making a dog fearful because you're correcting it, corrections might be unclear, a little too strong, and a little too early because a dog is not comprehending what it should be doing instead. So it's a little bit kind kind of in limbo here, because it also might be getting the same behaviors at home where it's allowed to do certain things. You come home, you're allowed to excitedly do all these things, and now all of a sudden when you're walking on the leash and kids want to say hi, it's jumping up all over them. So another thing you can do is you can really practice getting your dog conditioned to seeing the overall surroundings, but at the same time not engaging, so that a dog knows that it has the ability and the choice to not engage. Oh, there's some kids, cool, I can continue on the walk. Oh, look, there's another dog, I can continue on this and not really focus, right? All these things are very important. Let me make sure that I've answered everything here. Gets really excited, especially with kids, same reaction towards kids, towards them. Yeah, that's what I would go ahead and say. Another thing is when you're working with kids, before you go into kids that you can't coach, try to do it with kids that you know, or friends that and their children that you know. That way your dog can have a pleasant interaction around kids who are a little more calm, a little more well-behaved, listen a little bit more, and put you in a position where you can teach your dog the same commands that you're doing in the house and bring that around those competing motivators or those distractions that are going to up things a little bit more, right? So practice makes perfect. You got to make sure you're practicing these things outside of the challenge and then setting yourself up for success, or your dog up for success, in a way where he actually has studied for the big test, so he's not jumping into there and just failing that, right? Let me make sure I've answered everything. So we've answered Peter, we've answered Will, we've answered My Voice Matters for pulling, and Foxy Shade. I think that's it. Guys, thank you so much for asking your questions. I hope this really helps. Stay on the lookout for the next Instagram post, which is going to highlight clips from here. That's where you guys are going to be able to answer your questions for the following episode next week. All right? Thanks again for watching. I will see you guys next week.